In our mission, the journey is the purpose, and the destination stretches beyond forever. We stand committed to achieving our goals with all the resources and strength we have. A dream never ends, and it will come true. We are committed to stepping up beyond 50 years of Population Foundation of India.
On behalf of Namita Gokhale, William Dalrymple, and all my colleagues at Teamwork Arts, welcome back to JLF's Brave New World Season 3. Our magazine partner for this series is The Week, Journalism with a Human Touch. Our session today, Cyberbullies, Anonymity, and Accountability. Zoya Akhtar and Mihir S. Sharma in conversation. This session is presented in partnership with PFI, the Population Foundation of India. The toxic consequences of cyberbullying can be both visible and invisible. Its perpetrators often hide behind a mask of anonymity online and do not need direct physical access to their victims to do unimaginable harm. An important session that examines the causes as well as the psychological and emotional cost of such abusive behavior, especially with vulnerable segments of society, such as women and children. Zoya Akhtar is a critically acclaimed director of films such as Gully Boys and most recently, the hit Amazon Prime series Made in Heaven. Mihir S. Sharma is a senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation and the author of Restart, The Last Chance for the Indian Economy, and the co-editor of What the Economy Needs Now. Together, they discuss and analyze the causes and disturbing consequences of digital intimidation and oppression. To set the context, may I please invite Poonam Mutreja, Executive Director, Population Foundation of India, to provide us a background to the problem. Poonam, over to you.
Population Foundation of India is delighted to bring to you this very important panel to discuss the problem of online abuse, which is one of the biggest challenges going forward and a huge problem in itself. Online abuse is anything that insults and inhibits women or the more vulnerable from expressing themselves freely. Unfortunately, online abuse has become so common and frequent that we have almost become immune to it in a way. We cannot give online abuse as much less importance as offline abuse, as the consequences are equally dangerous. Abusers are so confident that they can remain anonymous and get away with while escaping the consequences. We really need to call this out and push back. Online is an increasing fact of life, especially now during the pandemic with so many activities going online. So the internet must be kept safe for everyone. And if we ignore online abuse, it can become dangerous as abusers will acquire immunity. In fact, the poison will spread in the real world too. The aggression that starts online will eventually permeate and poison public spaces. Like gangrene eats every way and affects body parts. Virtual violence can indeed transform into real form of violence in the world. For instance, stalking, homicide. Technology could be a force for good for humanity, and it has to be. But we mustn't allow it to become a way of degrading the standards of our public discourse. Just as the Me Too movement acted against sexual violence and sexual assault, we all do need to allow bullies to get away with abuse hurled anonymously into this space called cyberspace. And I am confident that Zoya Akhtar and Mihir Sharma will bring their eloquence and sharp understanding to this really undesirable and unacceptable situation.
Thank you, Poonam Mutreja and the Population Foundation of India for your ongoing work to address cyberbullying. Speaking on the issue today is Zoya Akhtar, who has directed movies like the critically acclaimed Luck by Chance, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, and Sheila Ki Jawani as part of Bombay Talkies. She has co-written Talash alongside Rima Kakti, and her own signature style brings together creativity, sensitivity, and individuality to create a one-of-a-kind cinematic experience which resonates with all ages. She went on to direct Dil Dhadakne Do and Gully Boy, and after Gully Boy, her next venture in collaboration with Rima Kadki, Nitya Mehra, and Alankrita Srivastava was Made in Heaven, which released on Amazon Prime in 2019 and has won a slew of awards. Mihir S. Sharma is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation and Head of its Economy and Growth Program. In 2019, he co-edited What the Economy Needs Now with Abhijit V. Banerjee, Geeta Gopinath, and Raghuraman Rajan. He's also a columnist for Bloomberg in New York and is an Aspen Fellow. To remember that all our sessions that have been broadcast till now are available on our Facebook page, JLF Litfest, and on our YouTube channel, Jaipur Litfest JLF. Please do remember to comment by typing it into the comment section below. Ladies and gentlemen, cyberbullies, anonymity, and accountability. Zoya Akhtar and Mihir S. Sharma in conversation. Mihir, Zoya, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay, and I'm very happy to be talking about this subject with Zoya Akhtar. Thanks for being with us, Zoya. It's been in a short while. I think it'll be almost a year since we basically retreated to our homes and started living increasingly online. And in this period, as more and more of our lives, our work lives, and have shifted online, I think that we've also seen a reasonable amount of unpleasantness begin to build up, particularly directed against, of course, women, but also directed at other marginal communities. And what I think I wanted to start off by asking you is, do you think that things have been getting worse in the past few months, this past year, essentially, that we've spent on various kinds of lockdown? Or is it just like an extension of a trend that you'd already begun to observe a lot earlier?
I think it's just been an extension of a trend. I think, yes, a lot of emotions and a lot of reactions and a lot of things were compounded in COVID because everybody was at home. A lot of people were not as comfortable staying in for various reasons. And I think this was one way of expressing and lashing out, definitely. But having said that, COVID also got a lot of people to introspect. There was a lot of change happening on both sides, but as a trend of abuse, it's been consistently growing. I mean, I have been on the only social media I used to be on was Facebook and Instagram. I deleted my Facebook because I just couldn't be bothered anymore. I just prefer to insulate. And Instagram, because it's way more visual, I've had to put my comments off, but I still follow people. I like the medium. I like photography, and I follow artists. So I like that. So I've kept it till now.
It's interesting that Instagram, I think a lot of people somehow feel is less toxic, perhaps because, as you say, it is visual, and it's harder to sort of maybe intrude on other people's timelines than it is on Twitter or on Facebook. But before we move on, I think talking about with a couple of cyberbullying things, you yourself, I mean, your new sort of venture, Tiger Baby, actually tried to launch itself on Instagram, didn't it? And that used memes of a particular kind. baby tigers, essentially people pretending to be tigers. I mean, I'm not putting this properly, but people as tigers or their famous roles as tigers. And in some sense, the question here is, when people are planning something like that, when you guys sit down and say, okay, we have to launch this online, let's get a lot of people we know, get them involved in something online. Is there something in your head that also says, okay, the danger of this is that it can run into, somebody attacking us as well, somebody, or did that not figure at all?
No, you have to do what you have to do, and people are attacking you regardless of whether you have a company or no. If you are at all in the public space, we also, the kind of work we do, we are putting it out for public consumption. So we are looking to that feedback. So that's part of the game, and that's part of our business. But Tiger Baby as a company was already launched because we had already done Made in Heaven, we had done Love Stories, we had done Gully Boy. The thing is that we had no social media presence because we hadn't bothered. And after these things were done, we were like, let's we need to build our branding. We need to put out the point of view, the lens that we look at the world with. And I think we wanted to do it via Instagram to start with because that's the medium we use. So that's how it started. And then, of course, all the people I've collaborated with in the industry would have definitely posted or congratulated me, or or Rima and me have worked with. And then we thought that we wanted our page to be a space where it's not just about us. We talk about things we like, authors we like, musicians we like, films we like, actors we like, just the kind of consciousness that's being put out through the arts that we are interested in. And it would have been a nice way to do memes where we acknowledge the person's work as well. So whether it was Alia and the fact that she has an environmentally friendly, not environmentally friendly, she actually has an NGO called Coexist, which is about protecting animals. So it was nice to give that a nod, and give a nod to, say, Katrina, who's got a makeup business, a line that she started on her own. So things like that. So we just thought it would be nice to salute and them as well in that. So it's not just advertising in terms of, come look at me in that way.
That's in a sense the sort of positive way in which you can try and create these communities online, particularly in places, I suppose, like Instagram, which are maybe a little more insulated. But, you mentioned Made in Heaven, and this is a question I think a lot of people would probably be interested in, which is that how has the fact that our lives have shifted online so much over the past 8 months changed the kind of work that you're looking at, the scripts that you're looking at, the stuff that you feel is fun to produce? How does one get our current 2D lives onto written about, dramatized?
I mean, purely as a filmmaker or as a storyteller or a writer, purely as that, it's never been a better time, ever, because you suddenly have a new medium, you suddenly have a new platform, and you now can take your idea. Sometimes ideas just lend themselves to short films. Sometimes an idea is not going to be contained in a 1.5 hour feature, and you need that 8 hours to build those characters, and you can do season upon season, and suddenly you have the option to do that. So now you don't need to keep things in the drawer anymore. If they have any spark, there is a way to put it out there. And I mean, forget a platform. I mean, you have technology in terms of you have the tools. You can make films on your phone. You can edit it on your laptop. You can release it on YouTube. You can be a filmmaker without anything or anybody. And so your stories all have a place now. And I think that there hasn't been a better time for storytelling than now, because and the thing with the OTT platform is that it's giving you a new audience. You are accessible in 180 countries or 188 countries. So immediately it opens doors. Your work is next to work from every country. You're next to Marvelous Miss Maisel and Fauda and whatever. I mean, it's an amazing time. So no complaints there.
Excellent. I think that you mentioned that you'd gone off Facebook. And I wanted to sort of like gesture in that direction a bit. Do you feel, and you're not on Twitter, in fact, before we go further, is there a reason you decided not to be on Twitter? Have you?
Yeah, I just have never taken to it because I was also very late to get onto social media. So by the time I was, shopping around, I just saw how negative Twitter is, and it's not the kind of energy I want in my life. I just don't want it. So I never got onto Twitter.
It's not the energy I want in my life also. Unfortunately, I do spend an hour a day on it, which is the technical, some kind of definition of addiction. But the fact is that it is tougher for women in particular on Twitter and to an extent on Facebook. And as in a sense, how do you feel as a woman who not only has a public profile, but also tries to, have female-centric businesses run, have that as your professional identity in a sense as well. What are the ways in which you feel as a woman you're disadvantaged in not being able to maybe engage as much across the board with these somewhat more toxic spaces than maybe men like I can?
The thing is, I think it's just tougher if you're a woman in any kind of patriarchal society, and ours is rather misogynistic. It's tougher, period, online or offline. It is hard. I mean, the kind of abuse that you tend to get is has a lot of sexual violence in it. It's not just I'm disagreeing with you, or I don't agree with your opinion, or I don't like your particular film, or I don't like your work. There is it's a constant threat. There's a sexualization constantly, and it's extremely like anxiety inducing. And I think like we are still adults, we've still been around, we are still we've kind of reached where we have in our businesses, so there is a certain sense of I'm okay, I'm insulated and I'm okay. But I think for girls and for younger girls and teenagers and stuff, it is extremely debilitating because it's hardcore emotional abuse, mental abuse. It's you're consistently threatened and shamed, consistently shamed, publicly shamed, and it's just a matter of time when that's going to spill from digital to real, from virtual to real. So it's just not it's not okay. It's just not okay. It needs to be pulled up. It needs to be punished, actually.
I think we'll come back to that question of what can be done about it. But the additional wrinkle in your case, of course, is that you're not from the country's sort of majority community, and to the extent that you're identifiably Muslim through your name, to what degree does that also affect your presence online?
Completely. I've had to put my Instagram comments off because I'm constantly being abused for being Muslim. Constantly. I'm constantly being told to go to Pakistan. I cannot even tell you the words that are being used. I mean, I have put them off, but I've saved them and I'm going to use it because I think when people look at it all together, it's horrific. Like I could tell you one statement and you're like, okay, but it's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's shocking. And it's men and it's women that are abusing you. And you're like, wow, this is insane. The language is scary. They're threatening you. They're threatening your entire family. And it's violent. It's violent. So, I mean, you've had to put it off because why should I be subjected to this? And why should they be allowed to do this?
Though, of course, you're still subjected to it because it still arrives. I mean, well, I have to say that I mean I don't have a name that identifies me in that manner, but I am I was brought up Christian, and that's generally it's not generally known, but a lot of people do know that online, and it is odd that it seems to be able to be something that people can say in response to any comment. You can talk about talking about something completely orthogonal to religion, politics, anything, whatever. But still, it's like, oh, shut up. How do you know? You know, how can you talk about this? You're Christian/Muslim. It seems like a very odd kind of way to be approaching what somebody else is saying. Say that because of your religion or your gender or your sexual orientation, you clearly don't have an opinion worth listening to.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not even my religion. I follow no religion. You know, so but it's my name and it's who I am, and that's it, and that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get abused because, I mean, you're gonna get abused regardless. I've been on panels where I'm with 3 other men talking about film, and I will read the comments under it, and they'll be like, "She's so ugly," and I'm like, "What?" Firstly, I'm not on this panel because of how I look. B, I'm the only person whose looks you're discussing. You know, there are 3 other men. I mean, like, please. It's as blatant, and it's not just men, it's even women doing it. It's just
Internalized kind of misogyny. So I think that you mentioned a little earlier that something needs to be done. Now, I mean, something could be done at the level of the company, the platform. Something could be done in terms of policy. Something could be done culturally, I guess, in sort of an understanding that we've gone wrong as a culture. Where do you think the interventions should be?
I think it has to be all around. Firstly, I don't think that it's you. Social media gives you access to people. If you're anonymous and there's no accountability, it's a recipe for disaster. So you have to work within these 3. There is no reason why the platforms do not take ID. You don't need ID to be on a social platform. So that means you don't really know what the age is of somebody. They could be 12 years old and subjected to this. They could be 13 years old and subjected to this kind of language and this kind of, and access to people that could be completely sick, you know. So there is no, I mean, if I have to get onto an online shopping site, if I have to get a subscription for something, I have to give ID, because people need to know my age. They need to know I exist. They need to know that I'm good for the money. But social media there is no ID. So if I come in, say I come in and I'm Queen Bee, right? And I'm abusing you and I'm threatening you and your mother and brother and son and whoever, and you complain about me and they block me and I come back as King Kong. So it makes no difference. So even if I'm anonymous on a platform, the platform needs to know who I really am. So I have to tell the platform I'm Zoya Akhtar. Then I can put my page on the platform saying I'm Queen Bee. So nobody really knows who I am. But if I threaten you and you complain to the platform, they need to know who Queen Bee is. How can they not know? Because, I mean, how are you allowing this to happen? And why is it not a crime? Why is it that if you threaten me via letter, it's a crime? But if you threaten me on my post, on my page, it's not. That makes no sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense. And I think that
there has to be accountability. You can be anonymous. I don't need to put my name out there. You know, I can go by Tiger Baby. But if I get onto Twitter and if Tiger Baby is behaving in a way that's not lawful, then Twitter needs to know who Tiger Baby is so that they can actually block the person. They can't be like, oh, this account blocked, and I come up 1 minute later with another account. It's completely ridiculous. And it's a free hand, you know?
You know, one of the interesting things here, Zoya, is that I think the platforms have revealed fairly recently, in fact, that they do have a lot more information about their users than they're willing to let on. I mean, they managed to, in the United States, suddenly ban, you know, so many people overnight, tens of thousands of people who they felt were advocating violence. And I think that a question that a lot of us in India have is that if Twitter had all that information, has all that information in the United States, it's clearly built up algorithms that are fairly predictive of this. It's got records. They don't seem to do it here at all. and neither do the other social media platforms. And is it because they're concerned with the consequences? Is it because they're concerned of their market share? I don't know, but unless they're held to account for it, I don't think we'll get the kind of action in India that they've started taking in the US.
I mean, if they've started it in the US, it will spill over. But I mean, let's see how much they do in the US also. Let's see where it goes till. Right now, it's very heated, but let's see actually how it pans out. But having said that, there has to be a solution to it. Because what is going to happen is that there will be another platform that comes out that has these regulations, and anybody of any worth will move to that. So what you're going to be left with eventually is just people abusing each other. I mean, they have to realize that eventually that's what's going to happen. You are going to have a platform that is going to give you that dignity and that space. And see, it's okay to disagree. You don't have to agree with what I think or what I feel or what my view or what my value or what my anything is. But you have no business abusing me or threatening me. That you cannot do. So you can disagree. You don't have to agree with anything. And I mean, the minute there's a space that affords you that and gives and is accountable, anybody worth their salt will move there. Celebrities, politicians, anybody. So these platforms will be left with no option.
In some sense,
Because they are enablers. Right now, they are enabling the women to be abused. They're enabling it.
and it's very hard, I think, to explain maybe to people who weren't around 12 or 13 years ago when some of these platforms had started, how how their general environment has changed. They were a lot calmer, nicer back then. I think perhaps because this way of being had not yet developed, that people hadn't realized that you could just be nasty and get away with it. People were still being their offline selves online at that point. And you're right, maybe there is a way to reconstruct that by trying to integrate people's offline and online worlds more. Maybe by saying that anonymity is not all it's cracked up to be, or maybe just through creating a platform that's harsher on this kind of speech. In the end, we're at least on the sort of English speaking side of this online world.
Don't be fooled. English speaking people are also doing exactly this. Please. It's got nothing to do with what language you're speaking.
Lots of vernacular social media. A lot. I mean, in Hindi and stuff like that. Some of the stuff that I see is, it's striking how bad it can get. And there's even less accountability perhaps because nobody's talking about it
Yeah, but the thing is that even if we're talking about it, the fact that it's so constant, like it can't be normalized. The misogyny, racism, homophobia, rape threats. I mean, this cannot be normalized anymore. This has now become a thing. Like all the female journalists that don't agree with you cannot be given rape threats. You don't watch them. I mean, the way the film industry has been abused this entire year was ridiculous. Don't watch the movie. Why are you going on to someone's page to abuse it? There are many people I don't subscribe to, whether they are artists, whether they're thinkers, I don't subscribe to them. I mean, I will not go onto their page to abuse them. I just won't engage them. I just won't give them my money. So what is causing you to go there and do this?
Yes, let's talk about this, Zoya. I mean, what went wrong this year? What happened this year? Why did the sort of film industry suddenly get attacked in this manner online, so that even people who weren't closely following it like I did figured out that something strange was happening? This is a moment of in which they were under siege. And what's the feeling like there? Is it that be a spokesman for a second if you can?
I mean, it was really it was very anxiety making, and it was very sad, because the industry is also one place that weirdly always steps up on a level. I mean, the industry, the amount of stuff it's done through COVID, the amount of charity it's done, the amount of things it's done. You're there, you're doing stuff. Nobody's telling you you have to like me or be my fan or like the film or don't be my fan. But to come out there and just abuse anybody and everybody, and it was very fueled by the media, because honestly, a lot of the channels weren't really covering the stuff they should be covering, and the film industry is a soft target and it does track. So let's just keep beating that horse, and that's all that happened, you know.
And do you feel that there is a sense in which, has it changed how the film industry will approach social media? Has it changed how they're going to think about their own fans, their own followings?
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for anybody. The film industry is not a monolith. Everybody is, it's a group of individuals. It's an infrastructure where people
That's a nice way of putting it, yes.
are in a particular city and they avail of this infrastructure and work. It's not like, so I don't know. I can't speak for anyone. I think people will be a little more private, I think people will be a little more private. I think people will not share that much of their lives anymore. I feel people would maybe not open up, which is sad because you had direct access to people that saw your films. And there was a conversation. Like there were a lot of people on my Instagram that I liked talking to, that I didn't know, that I took feedback from, that I was interested in what they thought, and suddenly you're blocking even them out because you just don't want to open your social media and read this language. Like I just need that energy in my life, why would I give you that space to have access to me? So I think that they will lose that access,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of sad, because one of the sort of great joys of the past 10 to 12 years has been seeing people talk to their own fans, and maybe some occasionally very lovely moments emerge from it. But in any case, thank you for being with us. I think we're running close to the end of the time that we have. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on this. Sanjoy, take it away.
Thank you, Mihir Sharma. Thank you, Zoya Akhtar. And you both are absolutely right. One of the biggest issues today, especially with young people, is we are seeing this kind of cyberbullying is leading to suicide, depression, loss of life. And these are enormous problems. And of course, it's not restricted to just young people, but they are unable to cope with the kind of bullying that they're being subjected to, the kind of peer pressure that they're being subjected to, and the kind of sexualization and objectification that they're being subjected to. So this is absolutely a vital conversation. Thank you both so much for joining us, and thank you to the Population Foundation of India for partnering with JLF's Brave New World. Do remember that the Jaipur Literature Festival 2021 will be presented online from the 19th to the 28th of February. To register on our website, www.jaipurliteratureFestival.org, and mark your diaries for this. Look forward to receiving you all soon.